All set?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. At this time, folks, thank you for attending tonight's meeting. Before we begin, I'd like to state the Planning Commission meeting is open to the public in person and via Microsoft Teams streaming application. All Planning Commission meetings and information can be found on the Town of Monument website. The Planning Commission role is to conduct a public hearing public hearings and to make recommendations for the Town Council regarding land use matters in the Town of Monument. Each commissioner agrees to a non-partial, objective, and fair review, which includes no prejudgment of the projects. Should a commissioner wish to disqualify him or herself for any conflict of personal or financial interest in this matter before us tonight, please say so now. For those attending tonight who wish to provide comment on agenda items, you may speak to the commission during the public comment section of the agenda. Those who attend in person will be called upon first and are asked to come to the podium and sign up with their name and address. Those attending via Microsoft Teams will be called upon next and are asked to utilize the raise your hand option and then unmute your telephone or microphone when called upon. We ask if multiple people have the same comment, only one person speak to the same subject. Again, thank you for attending. We will now begin the meeting with roll call.
Read the names.
Sure.
In the microphone.
Chair Trujillo,
Here.
Vice Chair Hours,
Here.
Commissioner Zernicow,
Here.
Commissioner Green, Commissioner Egley,
Here.
Commissioner Collins,
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
All commissioners are here. We have a quorum.
Sir.
Thank you, sir. At this time, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda, approval of the minutes from the commission, if we have an approval.
Second.
And roll call.
Chair Trujillo,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hours,
Yes.
Commissioner Peck. Oh, sorry. Commissioner Zernicow,
Yes.
Commissioner Green, Commissioner Egley,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
You forgot me.
Oh,
But yes.
Commissioner Collins, I'm so sorry.
Vote. We are good. Thank you, sir. At this time, we're going to go ahead and open up the public hearings and recommendations. I'm going to defer back to staff. This will be now present for items number 3A through 3C. And first area we're going to be talking about is 3A, the public hearing on the requesting for variance for the property located at 243 Front Street. And again, staff will be presenting.
Thank you, Chair Trujillo. Get this showing here. All right, we are here. We are at 645 Beacon Light Road. And we are here to present this request for a variance for a property located at 245 Front Street. Before we dive into that, just want to remind you all of a few items that relate to your role here. In this action, you are acting as a board of adjustment, okay? And as a part of your role as planning commissioners. Town of Monument Home Rule Charter states the town council shall establish and maintain the existence of a planning commission for the town. The planning commission shall have the duties prescribed by ordinance and shall act as the board of adjustment for the town. You should note that the Home Rule Charter is the ruling statutory rule for everything underneath it. Town code states the planning commission shall consist of 7 regular members and 2 alternates. The term of each planning commission member and alternates shall be 2 years, ending December 31st of the year immediately following the year of his or her appointment, or until his or her successor is appointed. Terms shall be staggered, with 3 members being appointed during the same year for terms of 2 years, and 4 members being appointed of the following year for terms of 2 years. Members shall serve no more than 4 consecutive terms. Terms are considered consecutive unless they are at least a term apart. Current members who have served in excess of the 4 consecutive terms shall serve until the current term expires. Section 240(10) of the Muni Municipal Code. Again, the emphasis here is that the planning commission shall consist of 7 regular members. Town code goes beyond to say that a board of adjustment consisting of 5 members is established, appointed by the board of trustees. The board shall include 1 member from the planning commission and 1 member from the board of trustees. Until otherwise provided, members of the board shall serve without compensation. Each member shall serve for a period of 3 years. Any member of the board may be removed for cause by the board of trustees upon written charges and after a public hearing. Vacancies shall be filled for the unexpired term in the same manner as original appointments. Up to 2 alternate members may be appointed to take the place of any member who may be temporarily unable to act. The members of the Board of Adjustment shall select their own chairperson. The board shall adopt such rules and regulations necessary to carry into effect the provisions of this article. The board shall keep minutes of the proceedings showing the vote of each member upon every question. Section 1801, 510 of the Municipal Code. Taking this further, on matters of local and municipal concern, and this is what I was referring to earlier, the town's charter controls over state statute. Appointment of a planning commission and board of adjustment are such matters. The town's ordinance must be consistent with its charter. The monument charter specifies that the planning commission shall act as the board of adjustment, section 240(10) of the municipal code, setting forth the make-up of the planning commission is consistent with the charter. Section 1801, 510 of the municipal code that calls for a board of adjustment that has a makeup of that is different and distinct from the planning commission is not consistent with section 9.2 of the charter that says that the planning commission shall act as the board of adjustment. Section 1801, 510 of the municipal code, while valid prior to adoption of the charter when the town was a statutory municipality, is no longer valid and enforceable given the requirements of section 9.2 of the charter. Quote from the town attorney, I believe that the planning commission acting as the board of adjustment has jurisdiction to consider cases which the municipal code assigns to the board of adjustment, despite the fact that it is made up of 7 and not 5 members. And so therefore, because of the charter this evening, you as a party are a desk of 7, and as being asked as the planning commission to be the board of adjustment, that supersedes any older code that is no longer valid. And so you can act tonight with the 7 people as the board of adjustment. Is that clear? Perfect. Okay. Background, moving on to the actual variance request. The applicant requests a variance for a property located at 245 Front Street. This variance would extend the duration of approval for a final plat application as stated in section 1801, 280, duration of approval in the Monument Municipal Code. The original final plat application was approved by the Board of Trustees on September 14th, 2022 via Resolution 68, 2022. Town signatures were not provided to the applicant until 3 months post-approval, which means the town provided the applicant with an already expired approval without receiving approval of the requested variance. The applicant will have to resubmit a complete final plat application, and all review processes will be followed, which will significantly delay construction at the property. Here's the final plat that was signed. You can see on the far left all of the signatures that were done over this last year. Further on the background. So this variance is pertaining to specifically in code 1801-280, which talks about duration of approvals. 3, in A3, the final plat subdivision, no expiration provided the plat is recorded within 3 months of approval or 6 months in a timely request for extension if made within 3 months. Recording any final plat, PUD, or agreement shall satisfy any conditions of approval and be recorded with the county clerk and recorder if applicable within 3 months of the date of approval. The applicant may make a request to the town staff for an extension of that time prior to the expiration of the 3-month recordation period. No extension shall exceed 6 months. There was turnover with town staff, and the move to a home rule charter has complicated the projects that were being reviewed in that timeframe, presented and approved by the town in the latter half of 2022. This project met all review criteria and was approved by the Board of Trustees in September of 2022. Staff failed to acquire the required signatures and present the final Mylars to the applicant in a timely manner. These prevented the applicant from recording the final plat with the El Paso County Clerk and Recorder's Office within the mandated timeframe. Upon meeting with the applicant, staff presented the idea of a variance as the fastest solution to this issue. Without a variance, there is no legal pathway for the applicant to have a binding final plat without resubmitting and going through the entire final plat review process again. No changes are being added to this final plat. This variance would only extend to the duration of the approval and allow the applicant to get the plat recorded with El Paso County. Review criteria 1801-540 for an appeal procedure of a variance application. B, variance review criteria. The applicant or proponent of any variance carries the burden of proving that the granting of the variance or appeal is justified by reasons which are substantial, serious, and compelling, and must be prepared to satisfy the board that, to the extent applicable, the following criteria are met. 1, the owing to exceptional circumstances, literal enforcement of the provisions of this title will result in unnecessary hardship. The second review criteria, the specific condition in detail which are unique to the applicant's land and do not exist on other land in the same zone. That the manner is in which the strict application of the provisions of the regulation would deprive the applicant of a reasonable use of the land in the manner equivalent to the use permitted other landowners in the same zone. 4, that the unique conditions and circumstances are not the result of actions of the applicant taken subsequent to the adoption of the regulation from which the relief is requested. The granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare and will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. 6, the applicant cannot derive a reasonable use of the property without a variance. And 7, the variance will not be injurious to adjacent properties or improvements. Taking that through, on number 1, without approval of the variance, the applicant would be required to refile an application for approval of the final plat at considerable cost and delay, even though the consideration and facts originally considered and which lead to approval of the final plat have not changed since the approval of the final plat. On item 2, again, the specific condition and detail which are unique to the applicant's land and do not exist on other land in the same zone. A, other recipients of final plat approvals are typically made aware by staff of requirements for competition of public improvements agreements as a condition of recording a final plat and the deadlines for recording of final plats. B, town staff mistakenly believed the final plat had been properly recorded until after the deadline for recording the final plat or requesting an extension of time for recording had passed. C, in working with the applicant on a public improvement agreement, the town staff did not alert the applicant to the potential for expiration of the final plat approval, and the applicant relied on such omission in believing that the applicant was proceeding properly as required under the Land Development Code. 3, the manner in which the strict application of the provision of the regulation would deprive the applicant of a reasonable use of the land in the manner equivalent to the use permitted other landowners in the same zone. A, without approval of the variance, applicant will not be able to use the land consistent with the previously approved final plat, which uses are equivalent to the uses that are permitted for other land in the downtown business zone district. Moving to criteria 4, that the unique conditions and circumstances are not the result of actions of the applicant taken subsequent to the adoption of the regulation from which relief is requested. A, staff turnover in the town planning department and other factors resulted in public improvements agreement, which is a condition necessary for recording the subdivision final plat, not being timely agreed to with the applicant. Staff mistakenly believed the final plat had been recorded until after the deadline for recording the final plat or requesting an extension of the time for recording had passed. C, the applicant was not aware of the potential for expiration of the subdivision final plat. And D, thus, through little fault of the applicant, the subdivision final plat was not recorded within time set forth in section 1801-280A3 of the code. Item 5, the granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare and will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. A, the considerations and facts originally considered and which lead to the approval of the final plat have not changed since that approval, and a granting of the variance to allow more time for recording the final plat will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood in any way not already considered in the application for the final plat. Item 6, the applicant cannot derive a reasonable use of the property without a variance. And to that point, the final plat was previously approved by the town, and thus division and use of the property consistent with the final plat is a reasonable use. Without the approval of the variance, the applicant will not be able to use the property as provided in the final plat. Final criteria number 7, the variance will not be injurious to adjacent properties or improvements. The considerations and facts originally considered and which lead to approval of the final plat have not changed since the approval of the final plat. The division and use of the property pursuant to the final plat, if the variance is granted, will not change from that previously allowed if the variance is granted. Staff feels that all criteria have been met. However, we do have a release of liability waiver, which has been drafted by the town attorney and is an agreement between the applicant and the town. And I'm going to point out to item number 6 in that waiver, which states, consideration of variance application. The applicant agrees that the town has made no representation or guarantees regarding the granting or denial of the variance application, that the Board of Adjustment retains full discretion as provided in the code for consideration of the variance application, and that the variance application may be denied by the Board of Adjustment, notwithstanding execution and delivery of this assumption of risks by the applicant. It goes on to say, and this is highlighted for tonight's purposes, if this assumption of risk has not been signed prior to the Board of Adjustment's consideration of the variance application, execution of this assumption of risk is a condition of approval of the granting of the variance application, and failure of applicant to execute and deliver a copy to the town by the close of the 3rd business day following such approval shall result in the lapsing of the variance application approval and any subsequent actions, permits, or approvals taken pursuant thereto. Therefore, staff's findings. Staff believes a variance to section 1801-280 duration of approval in the Monument Municipal Code for a property located at 245 Front Street to allow the proposed variance to extend the duration of approval for this final plat to October 1st, 2023 is reasonable on the condition that the applicant signs the release of liability as stated in item 6 of the said subdivision variance application assumption of risk, release, waiver, and indemnification assumption of risk document that I just presented to you. The applicant, I believe, has some things they want to present.
Please.
Applicants' presentation items are on the screen.
We are Darlene Scow and Randy Estes of Investing in Front Street, which is 245 Front Street. This project from its beginning has always been about creating attainable housing for people who work in our community, such as firefighters, law enforcement personnel, and teachers, to also be able to afford to live in our community with pride of homeownership, not just as renters, as well as create additional retail space in Old Downtown Monument. The final plat that was approved and signed off on December 20th, 2022 allows for each unit to be owned by individual homeowners or business owners, not the whole development under one ownership as a large rental complex. After the final plat and the site plan, we were directed by the planning department into developing the mandatory construction documents and public improvement agreement, or PIA. The first page of the PIA, as read to you, was pursuant to the town's regulations, no construction permits may be approved, nor a final subdivision plat be recorded until the developer has entered into an agreement with the town concerning the construction of the required site plan improvements, including on-site and off-site improvements. This PIA was signed by Sheila Booth, head town planner at the time, and ourselves, and has been recorded with El Paso County. During one of our many meetings with the planning department over the PIA on March 29th, the head planner, assistant planner, and we met. And we were instructed not to record the 12/20/22 signed plat, but rather wait until the final plat was signed after review with those changes. See the attached email from Luke Planner 1, Town of Monument, in your packets documenting this conversation. This shows that the head planner and assistant planner were also not aware of the time constraints of recording the final plat. During all these meetings and discussions with the town, there was never discussion as to having 3 months to record the final plat, nor that a recording extension would be needed if developing the PIA went past March 20th. Every time we went to the town staff, we always asked if there was anything else needed from us, if there was anything else we could do, and the answer was always no, nothing else is needed at this time. June 20th, the PIA was recorded and accepted by the town. If we had recorded the final plat according to the deadline of 3 months, we would have been breaking the ordinance that said we had to wait until the PIA was in place. And by waiting until after the PIA was in place, we have missed the recording window. The site plan has been approved, the construction documents have been approved, and the final plat has been approved, with the planning department, Mountain View Electric, and all utilities signing off. We in the town have worked together in good faith to date. We are before this commission for transparency and direction to extend the recording period of the final plat due to undue hardship created by planning department turnover, which extended the duration of this process such that conditions necessary for recording were not timely met. We have an executed waiver to submit to the town upon the granting of the variance.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir, any other additional comments or?
You already covered it all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you, folks. At this time, I'm sorry, please. And who are you, sir?
My name is Brian Bucher. I'm the architect and I've been working with Randy and Darlene for a couple of years now. So, and I live at 6360 Sandgate Court in Colorado Springs.
Thank you, sir.
I could not have done a better job summarizing where we're at. And Darlene has just explained and it's a little,
Jeff.
I was gonna say Jeff. maybe.
That's fine.
So yes, Jeff's done a perfect job. As he was going through it, I just thought that's better than I could have summarized. I think the big question here, and I don't know if Randy and Darlene are able to respond to this, the question is really just, can a person move forward with a project that for various reasons got delayed? But now all of a sudden there's a legal agreement that's asking them to basically indemnify and defend you, the town, and them themselves, if anybody was to question it, as I understand it. So I'm not a lawyer, so I can't answer that question, but I think that's really the crux of what's here. I don't think any of the evidence has proven that anybody did anything wrong, But I'm not sure how they get over that to move forward with their project if their lawyer's saying you're essentially taking on unlimited liability. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Jeff, at this time, we're gonna open one moment. Yes, ma'am. At this time, what I'd like to do, we're gonna go ahead and open it up for public comment. I'm assuming you're speaking for the public, correct, sir? Yes, sir. There you go. Yep. So go open up the public comments at this point, and then from there, we'll go ahead and open public comment to both the room here and then also online. Okay, so yes, sir, please come on up.
Very good.
Go ahead and open that up, please, for you.
Chairman, for you all members.
Yes, sir.
Very much. The last time I was in this room, I was sitting in one of those chairs up there as a trustee, working with Kathy Green as the town manager. So it's good to see you, Kathy. And I stand in support of Randy and Darlene and what they're doing here. You know, our motto is proud of our past, confident of our future. And I think what they're doing is basically the same thing what the town's doing on the other side, I-25, is doing mixed commercial and residential. I was in the Air Force. Our last time my wife and I were stationed in Berlin, Germany. The town was built sometime in the 1600s. And right next door to us was an Italian restaurant. The family lived above. Right across the street was an antique bookstore. Right down, you know, from here to the parking lot was our favorite Greek restaurant. And we loved the fact that you could just walk out of your house and be in the town and go support the restaurants and the various stores. So I think to not grant this variance on a technicality, and no offense, Jeff, and you did a great job reading all that, but I didn't understand that legalese. It's kind of like a ballot, you know, it's like, I'm not sure I'd sign that thing either without, you know, at least the town saying, yeah, we're for you. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the room, public comment, please, ma'am.
Carrie Hayes with Tri-Lakes Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Corporation. I am also in support of Randy, as our organization is. This project is the absolute perfect thing that we're wanting into downtown. And we've been super excited. Every time I walk by with my dog, I'm like, when are we going to start seeing the building? And it is a shame that they've had to do this. And it's a shame Jeff's had to go through this too, because of the turnover that has happened. Really nobody's fault. But I am going to ask that you grant the variance, but without them having to sign that document, because it really is not their fault. And I think if you were in their shoes, you would feel the same, that was not fair being put onto you. So that's what we request, and it's good for the town. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else in the room, public comments? I was waiting for you.
Everybody who knows me knew I was gonna be up here.
Yes, ma'am.
It's Bonnie Hildebrandt. I live at 18050 Granite Circle in Monument. I have a Monument address, but I live in unincorporated El Paso County. But Monument is my town. I mean, we do so many things here and we're so involved. And I guess I also wanted to mention, I would just assume this whole place stay the way it is or move backwards and take away some of the things that have been done in the past, because I miss my little town of 972 people that were the population when I moved here. But if it has to be done, I would like to see it done properly. And I think these people are credible and able to do exactly that. And because of all of the things that they've been through and all of the, you know, what I say is people plan, God laughs, and life happens. So all of the changes that have gone through the people, it'd be really nice. I think I agree with Terry that the variance should be granted without the legalese. So that's it. Thank
Thank you,
you
ma'am.
for listening. And thank you all for being here. I wish you had a better audience once in a while.
Thank you. Yes. All right. I'm gonna reach out to you, Ray. I just needed to check online, see if we have anybody that has any public comments online, please, sir.
At this time, there are no public comments from anyone online.
Perfect. We're gonna give it a second, see if anybody pops up there. Still none? Perfect. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and close public comment at this time. We're gonna move now to commissioner questions and comments. All right, so I will open the floor. Ms. Green, please lead us.
I will be very quick.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
am going to vote yes for this. I can't imagine why anybody wouldn't, but I would very much like to discuss this at the end of the meeting when commissioners have their discussions, because I think that this should not have come in front of us, to be honest, and at the very least, a text amendment is needed, so this doesn't happen again.
Thank you, Commissioner Green.
Commissioner Egan?
I only really had a question for staff, if we can approve the variance without also or by eliminating the legal agreement or the indemnification for the town of Monument.
So I have the town attorney here online, and I'd like to pose to him to answer any questions you might have about the waiver, why it was provided, and why it's been suggested as a condition of approval tonight.
Real quick.
Could you put that up so we could see the waiver?
Yes.
It's actually.
Yes.
Were you here?
So if I could jump in here, this is Bob Cole, the town attorney. And I can give you a
Can't
little
hear you, Bob.
background on,
Can you unmute yourself?
It just can't. Volume or something's not up.
Bob, can you speak?
yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes,
I'm
we can. Thank
unmuted on
you.
my end. Good, okay. Bob Cole, town attorney, and I can give you some background on this waiver and why we recommended it. And I think everyone agrees that the circumstances here justify working with the applicants and trying to avoid penalizing them for not having this recorded in time. The difficulty pops up in your code, and I agree with Commissioner Green. I think some text amendments are appropriate to your code. Your code really contemplates a variance process primarily for design criteria. What we're doing here is varying the procedure, and your code is not express in saying that is an appropriate subject for a variance process. Again, recognizing that through little or no fault of the applicants, their plat technically expired, and wanting to work with them, we thought that the variance process was the appropriate way to consider this. And Jeff went through all the criteria, and I think they certainly are met. But because the code is ambiguous on whether a variance process is actually permissible for this kind of procedural change, what I recommended is that we not have the town incur any additional potential exposure by helping the applicant out here. And so what the waiver does is it really waives any potential liability by the applicants back to the town. And we had a discussion this week with the applicants, and it was my understanding that they had spoken to their attorney, and we did a modification to Section 3 of the agreement on the indemnification that removed a provision that would have required them to indemnify the town for any claims by anyone other than the applicant. But what that says now is they will indemnify the town if they turn around and make a claim against the town. So it really is more in the nature of just a release and a waiver by the applicant that they're not going to come back at the town with any claims should someone else enter into the picture and say this was improper, the process was improper, or it was improperly granted. So I disagree with the concerns or the comments that this is putting the burden on the applicants and trying to shift liability to the applicants. It's just trying to prevent the applicants from coming back to the town. And if that section, frankly, if that section 3 is the concern, I'd be fine with this agreement with the total removal of that. I would just hate to see the town trying to do a favor here, turn around and have to incur some responsibility if somebody challenges this.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I guess then I would pose a question to the applicant. Where do you stand on the agreement?
Please. Sorry, guys.
We can eliminate number 3, we're could definitely be all for that.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Hours, to the legal attorney, did I understand you correctly that you would have no problem eliminating item 3, the indemnification from that agreement?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
All other things, if we eliminate that, you'd be happy with regard to that? Yes. Okay. That's all I've got on that. I've got other questions you want me to.
Please.
Okay. Once the chairman, this is to the staff, once the chairman signs the resolution, does this seal the deal or does it go to the town council?
Correct. It's Board of Adjustment matter. You are the final say.
Excellent. Okay. Now I've got something else. And what I'm about to talk about, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to vote for the variance. So don't get excited when you hear me talk. Okay. All right. But I've read in quite detail the resolution, and I have problems with the wording of the resolution. Who wrote the resolution?
We actually had the help of the attorney in writing that resolution.
Okay. Let me tell you what my concerns are.
Please.
From all the presentation that I've heard, the applicant did nothing wrong. Nothing from all the presentation that I've heard. Yet when I read the resolution, I see a number of statements in there that indicate that they did have some fault in not filing. And that concerns me, that why would we put in the resolution if they had no fault? Why do we do a resolution that indicates that they have fault to any degree?
I could speak, or Robert, if you want to.
Sure. And please feel free to call me Bob. So the draft resolution is a draft. It's so that you have something before you to work with in reaching your decision. If the commission doesn't agree with it, you should not approve it. And if there are parts of it that you don't agree with, then you shouldn't approve those or modify them. What I attempted to do in writing this up with Jeff and talking through the case with him really was an attempt to cite the criteria of the code that has to be met, and then set forth a statement of the facts that show that criteria were met. If those attempted statements of fact appear to be casting fault, that was not the intent. They were simply intended to be statements of facts that I thought, based on discussions with staff, would be presented into the record and be established. If there's a better or different way to state any of that that you believe better reflects the evidence before you, then by all means we should modify the resolution so it meets your needs.
So I go ahead and make comments about what specifically I'm concerned about, and if it's determined to make corrections based on what I'm concerned about, it won't cause any further delay for these people to get their variance moved forward other than maybe doing a little rewriting of the resolution. Is that correct?
Correct. You could indicate the revisions you believe are necessary, and then a motion to approve could incorporate those revisions, and then it'll be just a matter of rewriting the resolution so it can be signed. But you could take action tonight to approve it based on those changes, and then we could just get a cleaned up resolution in front of the chair to sign probably tomorrow.
Yeah, because I don't want to cause them any more issues. Okay, can I go ahead and make my comments?
Please.
If you go into the number 8, whereas, where I start on the resolution, number 8, whereas is for approval pursuant to section 18.01.540. Okay, that's where I'm talking. You go down to item 2B. Town staff mistakenly believed the final plat had been properly recorded until after the deadline for recording or requesting an extension of time for recording had passed. Well, that can stay. But item B, I thought that ought to come out, but I won't get hung up on that one. But go to 4.
On my way, getting it out here. Pulling up the original.
Go down.
I'm pulling the original, the actual, I have a screenshot of it in the PowerPoint presentation, but I'm pulling up for you the full clean one as Commissioner Collins had asked. So give me 1 second. I almost have it up.
Sure.
Okay. And you asked for,
Go down to 4.
Jeff, I think you've got
that's the
waiver
resolution.
and release.
My
That's
mistake.
the release of liability.
That's the release of liability. My mistake. I am still looking for this.
I think we just want to say Randy and Darlene are our town heroes or something like that.
That's not it. Solution itself.
Maybe that screenshot will be in the.
Almost there. All right, here we are. Here we are. Thank you.
The eighth,
patience.
the 8th, whereas. Yeah. This is the one, right.
This is correct.
He wants number 4.
He wants number 4 of 8. Here. This unique conditions.
Go back up. Let me run down through from the front,
Very good.
if you would, please. of that whereas.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Go down, move it to 3. Okay, 1 up to 3, 4. Okay, going down, next page. Should be 5. Somewhere in there, somewhere in what I read in the packet, there was a statement, and I thought it was at 4.
Well, that 4D says through little fault of the app.
That's the one I have problem with.
That's 4D.
4D. It says, thus through little fault of the applicant, the subdivision final plat was not recorded within the time set forth. I'd like to see little taken out and just say through. Thus, the applicant was unable to record the subdivision final plat within time set forth in section as shown there. Was it, they had no fault.
Can you just say through no fault of the applicant?
Or put no in there, but I didn't like the fact that everything I was reading said they did nothing wrong. And I don't like for a document to say they did something wrong.
So on 4D, you want to put then, what would be your final statement on there?
Well, thus, through no fault of the applicant,
Okay, so take
no
Through-
fault of the applicant,
little and switch to no. Perfect. Thank you, Jeff.
through no fault of the applicant,
Perfect.
they were unable to record the subdivision final plat. That makes sense?
Yes, staff has this edit to 4D. Thus, through no fault of the applicant, they were unable to record the subdivision final plat, which I would like to add which was not recorded within time set forth in section 1801 288.3 of the code, just for grammaticals. Are you okay with that?
Oh, I'm okay with that. I want the little fault out.
Okay, I'll read it one more time. Thus, through no fault of the applicant, they were unable to record the subdivision final plat, which was not recorded within time set forth in section 1801 280A3 of the code. Does that meet your needs?
Got it. Good.
Yeah.
Good on the floor. Yes, sir.
Okay.
That makes me happy. Thank you.
Anything else?
Good.
I'm good.
Gentlemen. Nothing?
I'm good.
Yes, sir. All right, at this time, obviously, we're going to go ahead and close the commissioners' questions and comments. This time, push a motion to vote. That motion to vote, I'd leave that to the commission.
Commissioner Hours? I move the Planning Commission approved resolution 01-2023, a resolution approving a variance for a property located at 245 Front Street with the adjustment that we verbally made.
Green, I'm sick.
To the waiver or to the variance itself, or both?
The resolution.
To both.
Very good.
I'm sorry. Yeah, to both.
Second.
Commissioner Green seconds.
So just to make it clear, when you say the both, so the legal agreement, you're taking section 3 out of there? So that James?
Correct.
Okay.
And roll call, please.
Chair Trujillo.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hours,
Yes.
Commissioner Zernicow,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Egley,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
The motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, folks. Next one we're moving to is an ordinance requesting a revision to section 12.36.060, sign and awning requirements of the Monument Municipal Code. Next item I present to staff for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Trujillo. All right, so an ordinance requesting a revision to section 12.36.060 of the Monument Municipal Code. Background: July 2021 Land Development Code was updated. It was consolidated and land use regulations into one document for ease of reference. This included items like zoning, subdivision, sign, and other related code provisions. As staff and applicants have worked with the code, noticeable issues have been identified. This is one of several updates that staff anticipates. The existing code states 12.36.060, sign and awning requirements. Signs or awnings in or projecting into the public right-of-way or public easements shall require a revocable permit or lease in addition to any requirements pursuant to the town's sign code contained in Chapter 17.5.6 or any subsequent sign code or modification thereof. A revocable permit or lease may be rejected in the sole discretion of the town, even if the application complies with sign code criteria, if such application presents a hazard of any type or does not generally conform to the architectural details of the building or is aesthetically discordant when considered as a whole with the building or area where such sign or awning is to be constructed. Issuance of a revocable permit or lease is entirely discretionary with the town. Currently, section 12.3606 references the no longer existent chapter 17.56 that was removed in 2021. When the Land Development Code was updated to consolidate all the zoning and land use regulations. Chapter 1806 addresses signs in the current Land Development Code. This inconsistent language complicates review processes and places the responsibility of interpretation onto staff. So revising these sections will allow staff to review sign plans and approve permits more effectively. Staff's findings. Staff finds that a revision to section 12.36.060 of the Monument Municipal Code to be the most efficient method of providing clarity regarding sign code. By removing the reference to chapter 17, staff will be able to review sign plans and approve permits more effectively. The proposed update is to strike through the proposed update, as you see below, where there's a strike through, this is where it is removed, where it is underlined is to be added. And therefore, the new reading would be signs or awnings in or projecting into the public right-of-way or public easements shall require a revocable permit of lease in addition to any requirements pursuant to the town's sign code contained in chapters 1806 or any subsequent sign code or modification thereof. The rest I will leave as for record in the slide. Do you have any questions?
Please.
The only change is the reference to the number?
That's correct. It's because the code that is referenced is structured completely differently. Yes,
Didn't change.
correct.
Okay.
We're just,
That had to come to us.
staff's been asked that we provide ordinances and changes for you and town council who will speak to this for incremental changes.
Didn't change it.
Very good point, Commissioner Green. Thank you. Staff would probably agree with you on that.
Jeff, just to be clear then, so 17.56, chapter 17.56 is identical to 18.06?
No, it is not. It is structured very differently and worded differently and been updated. So 17.56 came from old code that is no longer valid. And that created confusion for staff. So staff is asking for this so that additional staff can make this process easier and use the current 1806 chapter, which is structured differently.
And that portion of the development code was approved in 2021, is that correct?
That is correct.
Good. Gentlemen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, motion to vote, please.
Collins makes a motion to approve. I move that the planning commission recommend approval of the ordinance requesting a revision of section 12.36.060 of the Monument Municipal Code as presented.
Second.
Roll call.
Chair Trujillo.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hours,
Yes.
Chair or Commissioner Zernicow,
Yes.
Commissioner Green, Commissioner Egley,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Vote passes 7-0.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to 3C, an ordinance requesting a revision to table 1.1 in section 18.01.220 review process in the Monument Municipal Code. I defer to staff.
Thank you, Chair Trujillo. This is a very similar kind of request. So again, probably most likely clerical in nature, but as requested, we're presenting to you so that you can give your recommendation and then it can then go to town council for their approval. This is an ordinance requesting a revision to table 1.1 in section 1801.220 review process in the Monument Municipal Code. Background: the town of Monument seeks to revise the contradictory message conveyed by chapter 18 review process, section 1801.220 table 1.1 review procedures chart in the Monument Municipal Code. The request is to edit table 1.1 review procedures chart to eliminate confusion created when comparing the table to section 1802.260B3C. Here's the current table. A final plat. Current code contradicts itself regarding the final plat. Essentially doesn't need to go before planning commission or town council for a public hearing. After reviewing the planning commission's recommendation and conducting a public hearing on the application, the Board of Trustees will approve with conditions, or deny the final plat, depending on whether it meets the review and approval criteria. So you can see that there's a conflict there. This comes up when applicants are coming to us. They have access to the code. They look at it. They're asked to look at it. It's kind of on them to look at code. And so this creates conflicts of message of process with staff. The town of Monument seeks to remove the contradictory message conveyed by the section 1801.220 table 1.1 review procedures chart in the Monument Municipal Code. Currently, this table states that a final plat must be reviewed at a required planning commission and town council meeting or action, which have different requirements than a public hearing. However, in the section 1802.260B3C of the Monument Municipal Code, regarding final plat procedures, final plats require a public hearing before planning commission and town council. In processing final plat applications, staff has navigated this discrepancy and leaned into requiring public hearings. These contradictions can be questioned by developers and complicate review processes. This revision would ease staff's burden and clarify the review process. Staff finds the revision of section 1801-220, review process table 1.1, review procedures chart of the Monument Municipal Code to be the most appropriate method for providing clarity in the final plat review process. On table 1.1, the approval section would be revised to show public hearings before Planning Commission and Town Council as a requirement for final plat applications. Any questions?
This time, go ahead and open it up for
Commissioner Ours.
please.
On table 1-1, could you delete BOT and put TC there?
We certainly can.
Thank you, sir. Any other? No other comments at this time. Motion to vote, please.
Commissioner Zernico, I move the planning commission recommend approval of the ordinance requesting a revision to section 18.01.220. Table 1.1 review procedures chart in the Monument Municipal Code.
Collins second.
Chair Trujillo,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hours,
Yes.
Commissioner Zernico,
Yes.
Commissioner Green, Commissioner Egley,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Perfect. Thank you very much, sir. Next item we're going to move to is non-agenda public items. If we have any non-agenda public items within the commissioners. I see none on the table. I refer back to staff. Jeff, please, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Just a reminder to all of you, we do have the joint training session on August 21st that we hope that you all will be there. I think we have confirmation that most will be there, if not all of you at the table here tonight. And we look forward to the training. It's going to be a good one. We're all going to learn some good things together.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Next item, reports, communications, and announcements. Commissioners. Yes, ma'am.
During the meeting, but I just want to say that, planning tools have meaning, and I understand you were backed into a corner, but to use a variance for what we used it for tonight, I think it's really wrong. And I think if you did it more than once, you're really going to change the meaning of variance, and it is defined in our code, and obviously it's not defined in that manner. Which is why I ask about a text amendment, but I do want to say that if another deadline missed came in front of us as a variance, I would most likely vote no, because it's the wrong tool. And in reading the times on having these recorded, it does say, if you're backed into a corner and you're looking for a way to get out of this, because you guys were in a pickle, I understand that. It says if applicable within 3 months of the date of approval, the applicant may make a request to the town staff for the extension of this. It doesn't say anything about the staff making that extension, that request for an extension. And I'm just throwing it out there. I think I would have been more comfortable with using that it wasn't the applicant asking for the extension, it was the staff asking for it because of what had happened, then I was using variance.
A question, what would be the proper tool when they mess up like that?
That's the problem, is we don't have a proper tool in the code. That's not, certainly not Jeff's fault, but the code doesn't really have it. It closes the door and says, after one extension, you're stuck and you start over. It does say that the applicant is the one to ask for the extension. I hope you rewrite this, and if no code change has altered, what an updated agreement would look like, I would make it administrative if you could. Because gosh, that was a long presentation you had to do, and there were a lot of people here tonight, and I just felt like it was unnecessary. Not your fault, Jeff.
No, of course, staff is, I welcome the attorney to say anything if you'd like, but I will just say that, staff has researched, other areas around, the county, and whatnot, and the duration of validity that we have in our code, comparatively to other codes, is a little short. And it could be, that could be one solution, is to rewrite or revise the duration of validity. That's one suggestion that we've been considering. And then I'll pass it off to our town attorney if he has any other things he'd like to share.
I was just going to agree. I think the tool we used tonight wasn't really meant for this purpose, but it was the best thing that we had available in the code to use, other than doing what no one wanted to do and just saying, sorry, you gotta reapply. So changes to the code, 3 months, 30 days, 90 days, that's a very short period. So I agree we should look at, a number of different ways to have some flexibility because of the amount of time and the investment by the applicants, the investment of time by the staff, by the planning commission to get these things approved. That's so significant. We just got to have the ability and the right circumstances to extend these, I think.
Quick question for you, Jeff, on that one. I mean, my question would be, when we do the training coming up, is there something or a forum within even the city council that we could bring this up to say, this is probably a good working project or something as both town council and us, so we can come to a resolution to try and get hammered out quickly?
It's a great comment you make, Chair Trujillo. And I do believe we had a conversation earlier today, just a strategy session about that upcoming training. And this came up in our conversation.
I think it'd be perfect as a tool with both the council and the commission there at the training to say, this is what came up. How would we go about doing this? And how could we do it effectively, not only with the planning commission, the staff, but also the town council to say, hey, what are our next steps to produce a document that would benefit the town to allow for resolution quickly? I think it's in the air, just as Kathy said. I mean, most of the administrative aspects across the board should be administrative, so we don't waste people's time. But I want to make sure too that, collectively, this should be possibly on that agenda.
Absolutely. I will preface that, and I alluded to this during the hearing and through the meeting. Part of this is coming from, I believe, what I understand to be past actions by planning staff that are no longer here, that have taken liberties in making some administrative changes that led to undesired choices.
Sure.
And so this staff feels the need to be as incremental in our changes as possible until, frankly, we've built more trust with the planning commission and with the town council.
Yes, sir. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Any other comments, reports, communications within the commissioners? None. Staff, good. Perfect. At this time, we will adjourn this meeting. It is now 19:10 on August 9th, 2023. At this time, we adjourn. Thank you, folks, for attending. I wanted to hit that. Thanks. Right. Okay. Good job. It's getting better.
Yeah. Last meeting, though.
I was here at the one before.
Yeah, but the last meeting was even shorter.
Yeah.